North Country, and welcome to another edition of Fox on the Run, the program where we talk with interesting people in the North Country. I'm Foxy Gagnon. Tonight we're at Barker Memorial Gymnasium at Plattsburgh High School one more time. Now, for you viewers who have been in this gymnasium during the winter months and watched basketball, let me tell you, tonight's program you're going to hear a lot of familiar names. We're going to talk basketball. And our two guests are almost synonymous with basketball for the last, 30 years or so. We're going to talk with Butch Butchino and his son, Joel Butchino. And welcome, guys, and I've been looking forward to this, and thanks for spending tonight with me.
Well, thank you for having us.
Okay. We want to know, of course, these two guys, you're now looking at 2,801 points, varsity career points in high school, an amazing feat indeed. First time ever that a father and a son have scored 1,000 points apiece or more, and that's certainly a remarkable feat. I guess we'll talk with Dad first and find out where this basketball story all began. Did you start playing basketball at an early age?
Well, actually, yes. I grew up in Morrisonville, and probably the gentleman most responsible for myself in athletics is Bob Garrow, who he himself is somebody that in the North Country is very well known in the sporting world.
Did you live near Bob?
Yes, we did. We grew up one street away from each other. He on Jan Street on Brookside Avenue in Morrisonville, and his son Mark and I still today are best of friends.
Were you about the same age, you and Mark?
Actually, no. Mark is 2 years older than I. He graduated in 1972. And actually 1973, and I graduated in 1975.
Okay, so are you saying the Garrows always had a basketball around the yard and you went
Always.
over?
Forever there was a basketball there, and one summer what was really interesting was Mark and I put a basketball court in my backyard. My mom supplied all the material, and Mark and I supplied all the sweat and labor, and that court has a lot of hours and a lot of stories on it.
From what age do you remember this happening where you would say that you really started to play a lot of basketball?
Well, I was pretty much a three-sport athlete in school. I played football, basketball, and baseball. Ran track also. Depending on the season, pretty much was a sport that I played. I really took the love for basketball probably starting in 7th and 8th grade under the leadership of Wayne Chase at Saranac Central School.
Okay. And was he the varsity coach, or
no,
he was?
Back then he was the junior high coach. We had programs back then on Saturday mornings. We had 7th and 8th grade that ran almost like the high school leagues did during the winter, but we only played on Saturdays, the 7th and 8th grade teams.
Okay. Well, Joel, do you know a lot of this story? As you grew up, did you hear stories about your dad playing basketball at Saranac?
I did hear many stories. You know, a lot of them, my mother tells them all to me. Tell me about how my father grew up playing in backyards, as with Mark.
Yeah.
So what we did was we moved to Peru. First thing we did, built a basketball court in the backyard. Had it built right off the back of my garage, so I put numerous hours in back there to try to be as competitive as my father. About
how old were you then when you started, when you remember playing a lot of basketball?
I remember when I was about 5 years old. Back when my father used to coach, I would go to the gym. I'd be there 4 hours a day. At nights, just running up and down the sideline by myself, shooting. During breaks for them, he would teach me one more drill. I'd go to the side and do it.
And if you guys were like the rest of us kids were in the North Country growing up who loved basketball, it wasn't uncommon sometimes to even do a little shoveling so you could play basketball outside sometime.
Oh, all the time.
Did you do that?
We did that numerous times, whether it was in our backyard on my street or in the Garrow's driveway. There was a lot of time that the shovels were out, and we had a good sweat going before we ever touched the basketball.
That's true. Showing a true sign that you just love basketball. So in your case, Butch, you played junior high basketball. You were playing the other sports, summer sports probably as well. But when you got onto the high school basketball scene, people began to talk about Butch Butchino. This is a guy to watch, and the great teammates that you had. Saranac was a team to contend with in those days.
I was very fortunate. I had some wonderful teammates. I had great success, and it started early. I was very fortunate. I came up through 7th and 8th grade with a group of guys, and it was kind of funny because we had kind of made like a little vow and a promise to each other, because maybe we were a little bit cocky along with knowing we were pretty good, but we said, you know, we're going to stay together all the way up through. We had a great 7th and 8th grade team, and after we left junior high and went on to high school, we all got practicing, went out for the JV team. We had a freshman team back then, which today is the modified team.
Right.
Back then it was freshman, JV, and varsity. So we all as 9th graders went out for the JV team. Myself, Mike Ryan, Tom Ryan, Jay Hamill, Keith Riel, Mark Everlith, Billy Dan, and we just had a great bunch of guys, and we all worked hard and we all made the JV team, and that's what started our run at that point.
And who was the JV coach in those years?
Oh, well, actually, as we moved up, it was Wayne Chase that moved up with us.
He knew what he was doing.
Well, I'll tell you, he was very instrumental in building the program, because he taught the fundamentals of the game the way I remember them, and we carried that on. Our coach at the varsity level was Morristown. He was a small college All-American at Springfield College, and he was probably, I'm not sure, but I'll guess maybe 5 years into his coaching at Saranac at the time. Still young and really willing to work hard and make the program work, and we worked with him.
Take us back to those days about that gymnasium you played in and how packed it would get and some of the rivalries.
I've often told Joel and a lot of his friends that come to the house, Plattsburgh High School, St. John's were big rivals. And I can remember the modified or the freshman games would start at approximately 4:30 in the afternoon. And if you weren't there at 4 o'clock for the 7:30 varsity game, sit at home, grab the radio, and listen to Mike Mannix or Ducky Drake. And that was the only way you were going to get to see it, because we had an awfully good following. Whether it was in Saranac, Plattsburgh High School, Ticonderoga, or Mariah, we were going to control 3/4 of the seating in any gymnasium we went to.
Absolutely right. A great fan base. And I watched a game, well, I listened to a game out in the hallway. I got there too late, and I clearly remember, it was probably the days when you were playing, standing in that darn hallway and listening to which side was cheering to try to follow the score of who might have scored the most recent basket, because you couldn't even get near the doorways to watch.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I wish today that the young boys and girls that play the high school sport would have that opportunity. We have on occasions been able to have some good crowds. Last 2 years here at Plattsburgh High School against Saranac, who's been a rival, and you know, Butchinos played there, now Butchinos is competing against them. We've had good crowds, so Joel and his teammates have had an opportunity to see those big crowds.
Now, what years are we talking that you were at Saranac Central?
Well, I went all through the Saranac system starting in 3rd grade. So, but my high school career actually started in 71, 72.
Okay. And I was 2nd year teacher, 3rd year teacher at Plattsburgh Middle School in those days is what it was called, but I was a newly adopted Hornet. My Fox's school had gone defunct. We were closed. So I adopted Plattsburgh High School as my new alma mater, and I don't mind telling you, I didn't cheer for you Chiefs. I went to that gymnasium, or I went to this gymnasium with one intent in mind: cheer for the Hornets and hope those Chiefs got beat. What do you say about that?
I can say that in 4 years of high school basketball, I never lost a basketball game to Plattsburgh High School Hornets.
Well, there you go. And I'll tell you, every one of those ate away at me, because there's nothing worse than driving back from Pickett's Corners. That is one long trip when you're thinking about that Ryan guy made that shot from the corner, and that Butchinos guy. Now, was Tommy Jackstad around that time, or was he earlier, later?
Tommy came up after us.
Okay.
The run that Saranac had lasted for a while, and after the 75 season, there was a group of kids, the McCory brothers, the Martin boys, Tommy Jackstad, they came up and they just kept the tradition running. It was beautiful.
Who played for Plattsburgh High School that you competed against?
Well, actually, the one I'll never forget, honestly, is Joel's high school coach that he's had for the last 3 years, Kevin Doherty. Kevin and I are friends from the time we were young guys.
Really?
So we were 8 years old. B.J. Adams, Joey Cardney, Mitch Tarr.
Oh, yeah.
Scott McMartin, some of the older guys, Mark Garrow, Russ Keller, Carl Dragoon, Billy Sorrell. Just those actually were the guys that those were my closer friends. I hung out with those guys quite a bit.
What are your memories of Doc as a basketball player?
Oh, I think probably the strength that he had was he was one of these people that if you pushed up on him defensively and he still had his dribble, he owned you. He could take anybody to the basket if he had his dribble and you pushed right up on him. And then if you backed up on him, second to Mike Ryan and some of the earlier days, Stevie Parker, Coach Doherty was an outstanding outside shooter.
Okay. So Joel, with this kind of background, now here you were 5 years old, shooting hoop in the backyard at Peru. Was it that young when you developed your love of basketball as well? Were you really young?
It was. My mother, we're all avid sports fanatics. We love sports. Basketball was one that I picked up on as a youngster. I was very young when I first started, and it was actually a sport I stuck with. I also played baseball and football, and basketball was the one I loved the most. So I stuck with it, and I worked very hard at that.
Now, we'll touch on those other sports. Seems to me you were a quarterback in football.
I did play quarterback. When I was at Peru, started in 7th grade, I was a tight end. 8th grade, I just went out for quarterback. I figured I got the height. They say, get back there, see what you can do. I saw what I could do, and all of a sudden I wound up the quarterback of the football team. So, that was fun.
Also, PAL football. Did you play some PAL football?
Back in the day, yes, PAL football. I started the second year that program was in effect. I did play. I played until I was no longer eligible.
Now, in baseball, what was your position?
I played pitcher and first base in baseball.
Okay. Are you a lefty? Are you a natural lefty? Or?
When I was younger, I was left-handed for everything. When I was about 4 years old, for some reason one day I just decided to switch. I do half my stuff right-handed and half my stuff left-handed. That's just how I am now.
Well, Joel, so you have this love of basketball, and you start playing school basketball. You're at Peru. You're in the Peru School District, and you're playing, I suppose you went through the modified program.
Well, actually, it started out, my father put together a youth program that we could play in, and we went to tournaments around the area. We probably had about, 7 tournaments we'd have. He put them all together. So I actually started out in that before I was able to play in the modified.
Okay, so that was maybe your first exposure to competitive basketball.
It was. That was a great experience because it got you set for the physical play at that age, and as well as just running.
Do you remember some of the guys that were on that youth team?
Oh God, I played back with Matt Bazzaio, B.J. Godfrey, Nate Zeron. There was a lot of people actually.
Was it all Peru students?
At the time it was, yes. So we had a young lady that played with us, and she kept up with all the boys, who was quite an athlete in the area as well, was Christy Dupree from Peru.
Oh, yes. Excellent. She could have played boys basketball.
She was a tough one. She was a great athlete.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Well, you probably read about in the paper someplace or saw a huge plaque in the house or something. You probably knew that Dad had scored 1,000 points plus in his career.
Yep.
But I can't imagine that ever became a goal of yours. Maybe it did. Maybe when you were young, you kind of set that as a goal. But
when I was younger, I thought his point total was not going to be reachable. I honestly didn't. So I thought, well, it's a number there. I can shoot for it, but I really feel that I'm still going to be second in the family on that CVAC chart. So as I'm progressing through and up through the varsity level, it's getting closer and closer. I scored about 400 the first year, and about 300, I think I had about 300 something next year. And it just started getting really close. And so the middle of this year, it came real close. I needed, I think it was 11 points. And I reached it.
And you reached it.
I did.
You retired with 1,326.
Correct.
Now, is that the tops all-time at Saranac?
Well, actually, it's kind of funny. Saranac was one of the first high schools in the area to start with the banners of all the championships for different teams in the area. And at Saranac, the point totals that they have listed is 1,224. The Press Republican that runs their totals, and they've kept it up throughout the years, their point total was 1,326. Everyone has seemed to run with the higher of the two. I didn't mind that because it just gave Joel a bigger number to shoot for, and it put me in a position where I'd probably be able to stay king of the house a little bit longer.
So, interesting in your situation because you played one varsity year at Peru Central,
right.
Then you transferred to Plattsburgh High School to pick up the rest of the points. So, part of the points that you achieved were as a Peru Indian.
Right. What happened was I scored, I think it was 272 the first year as a freshman at Peru.
Okay.
So what happened was I scored my 1,000 altogether, and then I had another goal for myself, which was to score 1,000 for this school, for Plattsburgh. And so after scoring the 1,000 outright, I had to get another 272 to make it 1,000 for the school I'm going to graduate from.
Interesting. And despite all this, I don't want our viewers to get the wrong impression that shooting was the one thing on Joel's mind, because I think everybody would agree you could pass as well as anybody in the CVAC, and it was a skill that you were, I think, really proud of as well.
Right. This went back to the backyard. Father and I would sit out there close to 5 hours before dinner, after dinner, and we'd put the nightlight on in the evenings, the spotlight up so I could see.
Yeah.
And we'd sit there. You do chest passes, bounce passes, and everything stays fundamental. That was the sound key right there. Everything's fundamental, and we're not doing anything crazy behind the back. We're keeping everything simple.
Didn't you say I'd rather go watch cartoons, or I'd rather go call some girl on the telephone, or weren't there other things, or were you really enjoying this?
I love basketball.
Yeah.
I do. Back then, there was no time for cartoons and girls. I didn't want it.
Well, if I could intervene, I would like to say, a lot of people, and we had an incident happen when Joel was in 6th grade up in Shazy one time, playing in a tournament up there, and this woman came up to my wife and says, "You must feel terrible for pushing your son to play basketball all the time." And that's when my wife went ballistic.
Yeah.
But she was politically correct in her response. When we played the game, it's when Joel came and said, "Dad, let's go outside and do something." And then I basically had two questions, or one question, two questions. Are we going to go out and play, or are we going to go out and work? And one thing I learned from Coach Converse over at Seton Catholic is you work with your kids for 45 minutes, keep it simple. Anything longer than that, kids get tired and they start to lose their train of thought, and it becomes worthless. You know, after 45 minutes, work on conditioning, but the first 45 minutes, work on the fundamentals of the game. So that's what we did. If Joel said we're going out to play, I was the feeder, he was the shooter. If we were going out to work, we would work for 45 minutes. But it was when Joel wanted to go out and play.
Yeah.
We didn't push. We never did. We didn't have to, because we knew he loved the game that much.
Yep. And that came across, I think, just to watch him on the court, that he was having a good time playing basketball, and that's the real reason for being there. Well, we should answer a couple questions, because I kind of kidded Eric Gagnon, who's on camera tonight, before we got here. I said, I know the North Country is going to want me to ask some questions. Or they're going to say, "Foxy, you did a Fox on the Run interview. You had these two people sitting right there on the grill. There are some things that people in the North Country might have wondered about, and you never asked the question." I'm going to ask some questions. One is, you cut your teeth, as I've said a couple of times on our game tapes. You cut your teeth in the Peru School District, and great group of guys that you played sports with and all of that. But then there was the transfer after your freshman year, and you had played, and I believe started even as a freshman at Peru Central on varsity. but you changed schools, and it was a big talk. I mean, I think you probably realized it as well, that here's a guy who could play freshman basketball, rather varsity basketball as a freshman. Now he's transferring schools. Is there any story to that? Was there a reason that there was a change of schools?
The first reason was academic-wise. Before basketball even comes into consideration, academics come first. Been a household rule. I wouldn't want it any different. Because coming from up here, you don't see too many people going to the NBA playing basketball from up here.
Right.
So our mind is going to get us where I need to go.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing I had to do. Plattsburgh has an outstanding academic program. The teachers here, they want you to succeed. They love seeing kids get through classes, you know, help them out the best they can. That was the very first thing, the reason I came here. I had talked to people, they were just so happy, the atmosphere is just so upbeat. That was basically the number one reason.
Did you know some of a lot of kids at PHS at that time?
I did, actually. That summer, I hung out with Nate Sebron, Corey Ryan, John Madonna, a lot of players that, they were good players then. They've graduated, and they brought me up through the system, really. They were my first friends when I came here.
And you were leaving behind some good friends at Peru.
I was. I left behind a lot of good friends. I really did, but I have kept in touch with them, and they are true friends. They will stay with me.
Yeah. Well said. Dad, you want to add anything to that?
Well, Joel, at that point of a student's life in 9th grade, when you're pretty well established and a lot is going on, the toughest thing to do is leave your friends and leave your school and leave your home. It's something Joel wanted to do. And because he wanted to do that, my wife and I, our motto has always been, we're going to put ours on hold, take care of our family. They're only with us for a short time, and when they're gone, we'll live our life. And we've never deviated from that. It's our children, we have an older daughter, and they've always given us a great amount of pleasure and joy. And so we did what we had to do. Joel wanted to go, so Mom and Dad got on the horn. We got on the telephone, started making some phone calls, and figured out what we're going to do, and the rest is kind of history.
So in your 3 years at Plattsburgh High School, Joel, indeed you hit the 1,000 overall mark, went beyond that. We were at the game when you hit now which came first? Did you pass by Dad first and then hit the 1,000 at? No,
I hit the 1,000 for PHS first.
Okay.
I hit that first.
You hit the 1,000 at PHS.
Right, because that would have been 1272.
Okay.
And then Dad was 1326.
Okay. So we announced it when you, we knew that game. Is that the game where we kind of said it? That it wasn't a stop the ball ceremony when you got the 1,000 at PHS.
The people on the court didn't really know it, but I think everybody who was up in the crowd kind of knew what was happening.
We knew about it, and we were real glad that we knew about that. You didn't know I was keeping all these secret stats behind your back. So we were glad to be able to point that out, because indeed, as a Hornet, that kind of just sealed everything for you as a Hornet.
It did. I really wanted to beat my father. That was it. I had to do that, because now I have bragging rights in the family forever. You can't say one thing. So
what was the game when you surpassed him? When did that happen? When did you surpass him?
Northern Adirondack.
Up in NAC. It was up in NAC. It was a game that we lost.
Yes.
I beat him, his point total, and it didn't hit me then. I didn't really care. We lost the game. That was what was on my mind. I didn't really care about a point total at that time. It didn't matter.
That was kind of a crushing defeat, that game.
That was a tough one to lose. That was a tough one. We had I myself was not feeling well. I had a concussion the game before that.
Yeah.
Adam Favreau was out.
He was out.
So we just weren't at the very top of our game. We played an outstanding game. I couldn't believe it. We busted our ass. We did everything. So we did what we could.
Any discussion eventually about that you had topped Dad when it occurred to you? Was there any discussion about this?
No, there was no discussion.
Home?
Joel just simply told me, who's the boss now?
That's just how it went.
When did that take place?
That was the next day.
The next day?
After I was calmed down from the game, I went up to him and I said, "Dad, you are no longer the king of the family. Thank you."
I had to concede. Well, I will say I worked very hard so he could break that record.
The thing I'm afraid of to look back on is they didn't have the three-point line back then. I can't imagine what the point total would have been of those scores if it was nowadays.
Excellent point, Joel.
I really couldn't.
Yeah, Goose,
So,
Goose and I have talked about that during some of the games, that some of the great outside shooters that we knew as we grew up didn't have that. I mean, those were two-pointers, and gee, they would hit 4, 5, 6 in a game from that distance sometime.
Yeah,
Right.
I played with some teammates, Steve Parker, Alan Rock, Mike Ryan, forget it. You could take Mike's total and add a third more to that, maybe even more than that. Mike was just a phenomenal shooter, and that line wasn't part of his range.
I remember Mike Ryan hitting corner shots that, I mean, he was almost in the bleachers.
Oh, yeah.
It was unbelievable, and they'd swish every time, drive me crazy.
Mike was a big, strong kid.
Yes.
And he didn't force a shot because he had the size and the strength, and the ball it got there.
Well, right, he was just over any defender anyway.
All the time. Yeah, 6'3", almost 6'4",
And
high school guard.
I'd be yelling at him, get to the basket, go closer to the basket. 6'3" guy out there hitting swishes.
Yeah. You think you'd have been holler for him to
Man.
shoot because you didn't want him inside because he's bigger than everybody.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Well, this season, we were lucky enough to follow the Plattsburgh Hornet team around for a lot of games. We covered some of the other schools as well, but thanks to the support of a lot of the Hornet parents, we were at every game, I believe, except one on the Hornet season this year. And kind of recap the season. 13-3. The Hornets won the CVAC title, Division I, but then lost in the semifinals.
Right. We had that week off, and we just weren't in sync. We had a scrimmage against Seton at the middle of the week, and we just didn't have our heads in it. We really didn't. We're not playing very well. A week off without a game, that did hurt us. We went out. We really tried. We did. Our heart was in the game. Couldn't execute very well. Shots didn't fall. Therefore, there was a game on our hands. A game I feel we really should have won by a good margin. We should have, but we didn't. So
It's a game that the Hornets were up by, I forget exactly, but maybe around 13 points or so. The Hornets were up in the second half by 13, and Peru, a determined Peru team, came back and won that one. You were on the floor when Nate Newton hit a last-second shot.
I was not on the floor.
Oh,
I was not.
That's right.
I had a broken hand.
That's right, Joel.
What would have happened is I was going to get cleared the day after.
Right.
I would have been able to play the next game.
The next day.
The next day I would have been playing.
That's right.
Yeah, he broke his hand down in Ticonderoga that year.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Well, certainly two very interesting basketball careers. The other sports that you played certainly figured in your all-around athletic ability for the two of you, but interesting father and son combination. Now, as you've watched basketball, has it changed since you played other than that three-point shot that Joel points out?
I think it's changed quite a bit. I really do. The game when I played back in the mid-'70s, I thought was a much faster game. The team that I played on, the 3 years where we had a lot of success, we were a big team, probably one of the bigger teams in North Country's seen in quite some time. And we had, everybody was just a good athlete. And we turned every game into a track meet. We were fortunate that our coaches coming up early in the junior high years had taught us the fundamentals. So we executed the fundamentals, and we got the ball, we outletted it, and we pushed it up the court. We looked for everybody. We had a very unselfish team, and we had guys that could finish, and then we got back and played defense, and we just, myself and Tom Ryan loved to rebound, and we weren't going to let anybody else get a chance. So if you missed your first shot, we were getting the ball, and you better get ready to play defense. That's one of the areas, the game. I think the game today is a little bit slower. We ran. I think today there's too much execution. You have to pass it over here, pick over here, pass over here, and do all that. And it takes the players, they're not allowed to be instinctive. You know, run, set a pick, roll away. If you're open, go through. Just pass and pick away, pass and pick away. Today, it's too much X's and O's. Run the ball. Use the athleticism of the players that you have. That can be a wonderful thing. It really can be.
We're going to set up some pictures. We're going to reminisce with some photos and talk lots more. Our guests on Fox on the Run, Butchinos, who at this point, according to statistics by the Press Republican Sports Department, is 13th all-time in the North Country for varsity points. And Joel Butchinos, who is 9th at this time on the all-time list with 1,475 total points, according to our statistician. We want to thank Steve Willett at the Press Republican for providing us with some of the information for tonight's show. We're going to set up some pictures and come back. Eric Gagnon's on camera, and you're watching Fox on the Run. I told you we'd go through the scrapbook, and here's a picture of, believe it or not, Butchinos taking down a rebound.
Right.
And since you're in the whites, I assume this is at Saranac.
Correct. That would be a home game, yeah.
Okay. And you can see the crowded gymnasium in the background, all the fans. All eyes on Butchinos as he goes up. How tall are you, or how tall were you in high school?
6'2", if you want to say a small 6'3", if there is such a thing, but you know, that 6'3" at the, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you look a lot taller to me, a lot taller than 6'3". So, who else is in the photo? Number 40 for the Chiefs?
That would be Tom Ryan.
Okay.
Pretty sure it's Tom, yeah.
And then there's a Hornet there, number 40.
That, I believe, was Scott Osborne, I think is what his name was.
All right.
Yeah.
So there's a Butchinos rebound, one of many. The Butchinos not only scored points, but they rebounded and got assists and played defense. Let me tell you, part of my fun of watching Joel play was watching the defense, the rejections. One rejection this season in Saranac Lake late in the game, let me tell you, almost sent Goose and I pass over the bleachers. We about keeled over on that one. I remember that very well. Now here's the Chiefs in the visiting uniforms. What's this all about?
This is a game at Plattsburgh State Fieldhouse against St. John's in Plattsburgh. And that's myself in the middle. Right in front of me, kind of covering up and getting out of the way, was Tom Tobin. This would have been my sophomore year, which I think probably was, of the 3 years, might have been one of the better teams we had. Okay. Because it was the biggest team we had.
So you played 3 varsity seasons.
Actually, I played 4.
What's that all about?
I came up as a freshman. I played one JV game.
Really?
Against NCCS, and then I came up to the varsity after that.
Okay. Anybody else we can point out in this picture?
Well,
that you
one of the local officials right next to your finger, number 45, is Steve Parker. He's one of the officials that you know, we see a lot of these days.
One of my favorite officials.
Yeah,
I think he is solid.
Oh, Steve,
I like Steve Parker.
He was an outstanding, probably one of the best pure jump shooters we've ever had around here.
Wow.
Yes, I have to give him that credit. Yep.
No wonder they called him Stevie Wonder.
There you go.
Yes.
Next to him, 33, that's Mike Ryan, one of the outstanding players from around here in the day.
Okay.
And next to your left hand, I want to say Phil Reed, but a lot of years have gone by. I'm really not sure. I think that could be him.
All right.
Yeah.
So the field house, that was a great place to play basketball, huh?
Outstanding. About 3,500 people you could get in there. Maybe more, I'm not sure. But I do know that we packed it on a couple different occasions playing against St. John's and especially Plattsburgh High School, our number 1 rival.
And wasn't it nice that Joel got to play a game on that same floor during the Christmas break?
Yeah, it was great. I just think it's such a great venue for a high school sport. It gives you that feeling of the real college, you know, because it's a great big auditorium. It's a very big court, the biggest one we have in the area, and it gives you a chance to open up and play your game.
So when your high school career ended, did you have some options? Were you teased to go to different places? What was going on with
I had a
Butchinos?
lot of inquiries, a lot of them. And Plattsburgh State, the local college, was after me quite hard. But like most kids around here today, you want to get away. I went to Canton ATC, up in the Canton-Potsdam area.
Yep.
I played 1 year up there, and then I transferred back to Plattsburgh State. I transferred back and played on the team that the season before had won the Sunyak Conference Championship with one of the all-time greats and Larry Parker.
Oh, yes.
So that was real nice to be able to play with an individual of his talent.
Yeah, Hall of Famer at Plattsburgh
Yes,
State.
he is. Yep.
Who was the coach at that time?
Norm Law.
Okay.
Norm Law.
Well, I went through the scrapbook, folks. And number 31, is that
was
somebody you know?
The college number, 31, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's Butch putting up a shot, headed in for another two-pointer. Did you score any college points? Did you ever score a point in a game?
Oh, yeah, I had
Yeah?
some good games. Actually, I did pretty well.
All right, we got more pictures. I want to see one where the ball's going through the net. Here he goes up for one, folks. Is this at Memorial Hall or
Yes,
where?
those are at Memorial Hall.
Memorial Hall, Plattsburgh State Cardinal, Butchinos. Probably Bob Daly was at these games as well.
He probably was. He's
Yeah.
been a fixture in the local gyms for a long time.
Yeah, if you scan the crowd, you can see Bob Daly there, watching the game, sitting here half court.
Foxy, I got to say one thing. He has given me one more goal for when I go to college to play basketball. His first college game, he scored a triple-double.
Oh, wow.
So
that's a
I do
goal.
have something to shoot for. As of right now, I still have to beat.
Okay, boy, wouldn't that be fun if we could be there for one of your college games? You might play college basketball as well?
It is a good possibility, yes.
All right, well, inquiring minds want to know. We'll keep our viewers tuned right by their TV set. Don't go out and make a ham sandwich now. You might miss the answer. We're going to leave that one for the end of the interview. Okay, so there's Butch. Good to see you. The hair's flying, and you're looking pretty good shape there, Butch.
Oh, that was a long time ago. We were all in good shape.
Yeah. Eric, I'm testing you with the camera on these pictures, but, oh, wait a minute here. This one's going through, Joel.
Yeah, well, that was back in the day. As you can see, they wore 4 pair of socks about up to their knees. The nice shorts they got going, those are real long, real long.
Yeah.
But I guess that was back in the day when he did have a little spring in his hop.
Wow, you got right up there. This looks like a jam. Whoever took this picture was right on target.
Yeah, my mom had a gentleman that took photographs for her, so we were lucky that we were able to get some nice pictures.
Excellent. And was this like during pregame warm-up, or was this in a game?
No, actually, I still had it then.
Really? Great.
Yeah, that was during a real game.
That's a great souvenir, the jam. Well, guess what? I've decided, I don't know, you've never been to my house to see my sports collection.
No.
But I'm going to get a copy of this made, with your permission, of course, and get this autograph for my wall of fame that I have. So
That would be
I'll
nice.
set that one aside. A couple more. Is this you taking an outside shot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jump shooter.
Yep. Still no three-pointer in those days.
No.
No?
I really don't know what year that came into effect.
And at first I was against the three-pointer because I'm very traditional, I'm a very traditional teacher in many ways. I was the last to go on a computer at my school.
Wow.
I'm a very traditional person, and I don't want to change the rules. I'm against a designated hitter in baseball, and for basketball, I did not want that three-pointer. But then as I saw so many young men and women in the CVAC step up and make games exciting
Right.
with that three-pointer.
Yeah.
A game is sometimes just one shot away.
Yep.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's never over.
Yes, and you can be down by 6 and have a chance to win in the final 20 seconds even.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Unbelievable. Well, there's an outside shot at Memorial Hall. One more before we move to the color photos. Talk about a change in basketball. Okay, looks like, you're going to tell us number 50 here as well. But first, Butch, looks like you're putting ready to go up for another jam or putting up a two-handed layup.
Yeah,
or
it
what?
looks like it.
Yeah.
Really don't remember the outcome. Number 50 is another local person that was an outstanding player from the Mountain Valley League back in those days. He played at Shazy High School, Tom Rice.
Yes.
Tom was an outstanding player,
Yep, I did a Where Are They Now article for the Press Republican on Tom Rice. Gave him a call. I think he was in the Albany area, perhaps.
Yeah.
And spoke with him and had a nice conversation on what he was doing and his memories of high school and college basketball.
Tom was a great player.
Well, we're going to look at a few more photos before we return to some questioning. Now, here we go with the color shot. See how basketball's changed, folks. Much more colorful in these days. And what's going on here, Joel?
Well, this is at our place, and I'm just going up for the rebound right here. It's Andrew Harp, and I forgot who that was. I think it might be Sprague Frenier from Saranac.
Okay. Is this season?
That was last year.
Last year, okay.
That was last year.
So I'm guessing for the rebound.
That was during one of the games when we had about 1,200 people here. We had a packed house for those last 2 years. Yes, it was great.
And who's number 30 for the Hornets?
That's Tim DeLeese. I think everybody knows Timmy from football. Timmy's an outstanding player, great athlete. And Adam Favreau underneath.
Okay. Very good. Tim was like one of the quiet, unsung guys. Didn't make many headlines, but
Tim was he's the greatest kid ever. I love the kid. He can play some defense. That kid is great. He seems really big. He is really light on his feet.
Yes.
And he has the softest shot ever, which he brought us back in a couple of games with that shot at Saranac.
Hey, and I'll tell you, in that Christmas game at the Fieldhouse, he got hot in the third quarter.
It was nice, yeah.
You know, there wasn't a lot on the line in that game, but my goodness, he got hot. He had a big third quarter. His parents had a good group nearby us, and they were having a lot of fun. Well, what's this? I don't recognize some of this.
Oh, what's
Franklin
this?
Academy.
Franklin Academy. This is, where is this one?
I don't know if that was last year at the intersectional, maybe?
That is at the intersection. I think it was a Christmas tournament, actually.
Yep,
Because we're
that
at
could be.
Memorial. We are at Memorial, so it is the Christmas tournament. That's where that was last year, against Franklin Academy.
I see, looks like Rick Bruce on in the background here. Official timer, Rick Spruce Bruce. So I'm going to look to see if you let me look, Eric. I'm going to see if I'm in this photo. Okay? I don't want to move it too fast. You'll get a close-up of my stomach. That's right. Okay, I can't. I'm blocked out. The Butchino body is blocking me out, but there was a swish near the basket. And I would like to point out this guy because he's been one of my favorites the couple years that I've known him. This guy right here.
That's Christian Fout. Yeah, that kid's, he's a great player.
Yes.
He's a real good kid.
Yeah.
He's got some really long arms. I know that.
And he started this year on the bench with a back injury.
Yeah,
was sidelined.
he slipped some disc in his back, so he was out for a while. Went through rehabilitation. So he came back at the end of the year though and gave us a great season.
Yes. Yep. And I'm sure if the team would have had him all along, he would have been a great contributor.
Yes, he really would have.
It seems like a very nice guy. I like Chris.
He's a great kid.
Okay, we have a couple more just to show what's going on here.
Again,
up for the shot.
That's another Saranac game.
This is
Saranac Lake. Oh, I'm sorry.
This is photography by Press Republican.
Yes, these are all photos out of the Press Republican.
Okay. And Adam Favreau over here.
Right, and I believe this was the game. It was at Memorial. They had beaten us the game before, and we really took that personal. We came out and we beat them by about 30 points in this game.
Okay. So this was like, was this a sectional championship maybe?
It was.
Yeah.
It was last year's sectional championship.
Yeah. Okay. I'm scanning the crowd to see if I recognize anybody, and yep, there's Bob Daly. Okay, and one more. Boy, they're trying to climb all over Butchino here to get the ball.
Oh, well, the funny part is that's my cousin.
Hey.
That's Josh Brooks. Josh Brooks and I, we are family. That's my cousin. All over my back.
Yeah, great shot then.
It was. Got the rebound.
Yeah.
So that was back when they all dyed their hair.
That's right. Even the coach did.
Even
Coach
the coach.
Gastine even did that. Yeah. I'd like to see Coach Doherty sometime have his hair that color. I bet he'll never do that.
I'm guessing you're right.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see that anytime soon.
Okay. Well, let's talk about, as long as we were looking at pictures of games, any favorite games during your times that you played, each of you, games that stick in your head as, oh boy, I've got good memories of that one?
I remember the days in the field house against Plattsburgh High School. They were our biggest rival. They were all really good friends of mine. And it made it tough to play. And we had some real good battles. No games that were blowouts. The score wouldn't indicate some, that in some games, but they're just so competitive. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it was a game where if you weren't watching what was going on, you could miss a lot. You could miss a lot because the pace of the game was quick.
And the thing that gets me, and we talked about it earlier, but you can never say it enough, we didn't know that you had so much respect for the PHS players and vice versa, and that you guys knew each other. Because I'll tell you, the Saranac fans did not like the PHS fans and vice versa.
We had a young man that never missed a high school game. His name was Bill Long, and he could play the trumpet. And I can recall, as an athlete, when you're out on the court, I get a kick today. Everybody has to be really, really quiet when someone shoots a foul shot. It's kind of like watching a tennis match. The athletes, you can make all the noise in the world. The athletes don't hear you. They don't hear anything. But Bill Long would stand up there with that trumpet, and you heard that. And it would just get you so pumped up. And I thought he was our sixth man because he got everything going. He'd start blowing in that horn, and it was just great. I'll never forget him standing up in all the gyms we went to.
Yeah.
And when it was time, he'd do something, and there we'd go.
I never knew who he was, but
Yeah.
I remember him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joel, how about yourself? Your high school.
The one game that sticks out is last year in the regionals. We went up to Albany and played Bishop Ludden. Mm-hmm. They were good. They were very good. They had a 6'8" kid, and we just couldn't put enough people on him to defend him.
Yeah.
We got down by, I think it was pretty close to 30 points. And the second half, we stepped up tremendously. I think we got it to within about 6 or 8 points, and we had pushed ourselves so hard that we got to that point with about 3 minutes to go, and we just ran out of gas. We had nothing left to try to tie, take the lead, or finish them off, one or the other, so we lost in that game. It was a tough loss, but we all played well. We really did.
Why do you think the team was able to turn it around after such a first half?
I think we really went out a little scared. We looked at them. They're all these, big kids from the city. Bishop Ludden seems like a city to us from here.
Yeah, sure.
So we went there. I think we were a little scared, and we played very tentative the first half. Mm-hmm. We were not looking for our shots, not playing our game of basketball, and that put us in a big hole. So the second half, we just came out, and I don't know. I thought I could try to take stuff into my own hands, and I was pretty fortunate. Shots went down, and tried to bring us back. It was a really good game.
We don't have a tape of that game, do we?
Actually,
we do.
We were able to. There was a young boy that played on the Bishop Ludden team. He was a second-team All-New York State player.
Oh wow!
And his name was Montanaro, I believe.
Montanaro.
And I was able to get hold of his dad, or my wife was able to get hold of his dad. They had taken a film of the game, and we got a copy.
Does it have play-by-play or anything?
No, it's just the game.
Like the game film?
Just the game film, yeah.
But still nice to have that.
Oh, definitely. They're all keepsakes, And I'd like to thank you people for what you've done. You've given us things that we'll have forever, that we'll always be able to go back to remember.
I know Goose and I have often said, boy, wouldn't it be nice if we had even one game that we could watch. I've never forgotten my last high school basketball game, and Goose has tapes of football, Mike Manick's Wairy Radio, and so he has some audio tapes, but not videotapes. It'd be great to have even one of those.
Oh, I know one thing that he still has. When he scored his 1,000th point, no video cameras, no regular cassettes, but we have an 8-track.
An 8-track.
An 8-track. What I can play that on nowadays, I do not know. So I will never know what's on that tape.
Now, was there a ceremony when you hit your 1,000th?
Actually, this is a really, really neat thing that happened last year. When I scored my 1,000th point, it was against Mariah in a home game up in Saranac. And Ducky Drake was doing the game on the radio, And one of the officials in that game, I believe, was Mr. Sprague from down around Mariah
Correct.
area. Well, unbeknownst to anybody, last year when Joel was close to scoring his 1,000th point, the game was against, I believe, Ticonderoga. Ducky Drake was doing the game on the radio, and 27 years later, Mr. Sprague is back up in the North Country officiating a game. And it was just the most amazing thing that myself on my night and Joel on his night had the same radio commentator and one of the two same officials, and I just thought that was so neat.
Yes.
I thought it was a really great thing. And after the game was over, I took Joel into the locker room to introduce him to Mr. Sprague, and he's such a great man, and we talked for a little while, and he really appreciated the fact that he was there and was part of a goal that we were both able to accomplish.
A couple things to talk about. Talk about watching Joel play. So all those years in the backyard and so many, countless hours that you two spent together practicing, working at basketball, playing basketball. And then he reached the high school level, and I don't know that you ever missed a game that he was...
No, his mom and I never missed a game. Yeah. We always managed to get there regardless of how or what we had to do.
Yeah.
We made it to the games. Proud. I'm just extremely proud. And it's not so much for the accomplishments and the goals he's achieved, but for the fact that when people come up and say something about Joel to my wife Kathy or I, they talk about what kind of a young man Joel is. And above everything, knowing that he is respected for being a nice young man, a good kid first, and then a student and an athlete in that order is very rewarding. Very rewarding. As Joel said earlier, in Clinton County, enjoy what you have in our league. Be good and work hard. But what's going to take care of you the rest of your life is your academics. But during the athletic time that he was on the court, he made us extremely proud. He gave us numerous times where we were just so happy to sit there and cheer. And he and I are very good friends. We have a relationship that is different than most dads and their son. I'll cherish that forever. I worked hard to have that. And so has he.
Yeah, it doesn't just happen.
No. It's a unique relationship. It really is.
Do you talk about the game after the game, Joel? What's any ritual?
There is. After every game, guy takes shower. So I'll get in the shower. He'll come up, just stand in the doorway, and for about 10-15 minutes, we just review the game. After every game, that's what happens. Nothing said on the way through the door. Nothing said until we're up, just me and him. Nothing else has to. No one else has to know what me and him have to say to each other. Because that's where that friendship comes in. Certain stuff, just two people need to hear.
Now, having watched you play 4 years of varsity basketball, and let's face it, you were always the potential scoring threat on the team that you played on. So you would draw probably the best defensive player from the other team, sometimes two of the best defensive players from the other team, and sometimes they would pound you. Sometimes their goal was to try to intimidate you, try to get you in foul trouble.
Right.
Did you get frustrated? Is that a difficult circumstance to play under?
I think my best way to look at this is this year against Seton Catholic. I had Daniel Willett on me, which he is an outstanding defensive player. I only had 9 points that game. Average 19 for the season, had 9 that game, but I had 15 assists.
Right.
I had no problem whatsoever just creating for other people. I'd penetrate. I would have him in front of me and Dan Boise behind him. I can't exactly go up with the shot, so that means I drew 2. Someone's got to be open. Yeah. I found that person, and we won.
Someone said to me the next day when the box score appeared from that game, Foxy, did you videotape it? Yep, we were there. Well, geez, looks like Butchino had a bad game. And I said, nope. In fact, I think he had one of his best games of the season. And I told them why, sort of recapping what
Right.
you just said, that, yeah, it's not just the points, and that so many other things happened in that game that they needed you. Goose and I have said that you seem to have a sense of when you had to step it up for the offense, when you were needed to make the pass inside, and I don't know if that's instinctive or coached to you. Or
It is. It's instinctive ball is what it is. That comes from back when he coached, playing with the kids that he had. As I got a little bit older, he coached for quite a few years, so I was able to grow a little bit, put on a couple pounds, and get out there and run with his players. And it was back when if the man was open, you gave him the ball. You don't think twice about it. If he's in front of you, the person ahead of you gets the ball. That's just the way it is. And keep it simple. Fundamentals is what the game should still be about, and most coaches are lacking to teach them.
And I'll say it because I know you guys never would, that had you wanted or had you been at another school, I think Joel Butchino would have scored 2,000 points if he would have wanted to. But I think you understood the situation, and you were surrounded by talent often when you played through those 4 years. So I want you to talk a little bit about Coach Doherty, who I've watched and I've known since he was 13 years old, but I never had to play for him.
Right. Doc's, he's a great guy. I loved him to death. What happened was, when I was going to first come here my sophomore year, nobody is allowed into a practice. It doesn't matter who you are not allowed in this gymnasium when there is a practice session going on. So when I said that I was thinking about coming here, he allowed it. For about 20 minutes, I was allowed just to step in the doorway, me and my father, and just watch a little bit of his practice. And the man teaches the fundamentals. We come in, it was very beginning of practice, they're doing a full court ball handling drills. Down with the left, back with the right. You go twice. Crossovers between the legs. Just going back to how it's supposed to be. And that's why he's had the great success that he's had, because he sticks to those basics. And they worked back then. They do still work now.
Could be a little boring doing that, though, Joel.
It could be.
I mean, I have a short attention span.
It could be, but I've only lost, I think, 17 games in the 3 years I've been here. So I think he's doing something right.
Talk about the support from your family. You heard from your dad watching you play. How was it to be able to look up in the stands from the time you were 8 years old?
Well, the funny thing is, like you said before, you don't hear anything when you're on the court. You don't hear a single person. You hear one person, that's always your coach. I heard two. It was my coach and my father. Two voices I could pick out of any crowd. So I actually had an advantage. I had two people helping me out, which was great, because he knows how I play. He knows my shot and everything. I'd be on the foul line, and I'd miss the first one. I'd just look up, and I would know what I did wrong. Step back up, correct that problem, and success would happen.
Okay.
But my parents, very supportive. Never pushed me one bit. Behind me the whole way. I'm very fortunate. Whatever I wanted to do, go ahead. Behind me 100%, there was no doubt, which made it very easy and I was very confident in my choices I made.
Now, are there other Butchinos at home? Brothers, sisters?
I do have a sister. She's 23 years old. She works in Albany. She's in the field of computers. So she does very well.
Okay.
Very well.
And she graduated from?
She graduated from Peru High School.
Peru Central.
Yes.
Okay. Well, this is the first time that we've interviewed a high school athlete. It's sort of been against my philosophy, but because of my new relationship with the Press Republican newspaper, and I'm very pleased about that, they asked me to interview both of you, and it was a good way to combine Fox on the Run with the story that appeared in the Press Republican pages. So I have the opportunity to ask you about, as you wrap up your time here at Plattsburgh High School, I'm sure you've received letters and phone calls. I don't know what the recruiting procedures are, but I imagine you're thinking about playing some more basketball. Can you tell anything that's going on? Is it legal to tell? I don't want to.
Right now, I have not decided as of yet. I have been accepted to RIT, the Rochester Institute of Technology. The coach there would love to have me. They could.
Is that Coach Doherty's school?
Coach Doherty played for Coach McVeigh, which is the RIT coach. It was not at RIT, but they do know each other very well.
Okay. Yeah.
So the other place, which I am hoping to get into, is St. Lawrence University.
Okay.
In Potsdam.
Yeah.
Coach Kevin Downs.
Okay.
Terrific man. I've been down there to speak with him quite a bit, and I'm just waiting for the acceptance from that school, and that's where I hope to attend.
Okay. So thanks for sharing that, and you hope to play some more basketball. So that night of the semifinal game here, when I felt a little nostalgic, and I would have liked to have freeze-framed that moment, because in that semifinal game against Peru Central, when you took a shot from about this area with maybe 8 seconds left on the clock, I was honestly thinking this is probably going to be Joe Butchinos' final shot that I'll see him take. And I don't want to sound over dramatic, but it's been fun watching you from a little kid. I knew you as a little kid, and
right.
And it's been fun watching you through high school.
Thank you.
But maybe our cameras will be able to see a little bit more of you.
I hope so.
Wouldn't that be nice? Want to be sure I cover all the bases. Would you ever like to coach, do you think?
I don't know if coaching's in my future. I really don't. I love to play. I don't think I have really right now that I can think of the patience to sit there and watch.
Yeah.
It's hard enough going to Memorial right now and watching games.
Yeah.
I don't see myself as that type of person right now.
Yeah.
Could that change? Good possibility.
Kind of sounds like Mike Dean. Did you ever know Mike Dean?
I think I did. Yeah, I knew Mike for a little while. Yeah.
Yeah, Mike Dean was so full of energy, and I'm sure he worked out and probably still does with the teams that he coached in college.
Marquette.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm going to look at my notes because I don't want to leave any stone unturned. And from the things I want to talk about, pretty much that wraps up. A couple closing thoughts. We've been talking with Butchinos, 13th on the all-time CVAC list, but a guy that I cheered against for at least 4 years. And not just Butch, but his teammates out there at Saranac. And it's been great to come to know you as a parent and to see the kind of guy that you are. It's been a pleasure, and we've talked several times basketball, and those discussions will continue. And Joel, 9th on the all-time CVAC list, 2-time CVAC All-Star as a sophomore, and then once again this year the CVAC Most Valuable Player. 3-time All-Star, but 2-time MVP. 3-time, 4-time All-Star? 4-time All-Star selection and 2-time MVP as a sophomore and again as a senior, both times very well deserved. And I was happy to be able to announce that. That's one of the honors I get, as designated to me by Section 7 basketball chairperson for boys, John Rebidoux. And he designates that I get to do that. One of Joel's senior portraits, or is that what they call them, or what's?
Yeah, this is a
photo, or what's
this is for the team. Every year you got to go to Blair and Weber and get the team picture done, and you can also get individual shots. And this is just one individual shot.
We never got to do that in high school.
Well, they didn't have much
changed.
But to compare, you pointed out some good things about your dad's uniform.
Yeah.
If this were me, I'd be in the maroon and gold, and we'd have socks on right up to our knee pads, because we wore knee pads. You had to wear knee pads. I had maroon knee pads, and the shorts, there was a lot of skin that showed here, right up to the short shorts that we wore. And I was number 12 in basketball, if anybody cares about that. But that's a nice shot. Okay. And we've had a great time talking with Butch Butchino and Joel Butchino. I want to thank Eric Gagnon for spending Monday night with us here at Barker Memorial Gymnasium at Plattsburgh High School. One more time, sitting around half court, scene of many great games, and I want to thank these two guys for
Well, thank you very much for having us. This has been beautiful.
It was a good time, and we thought this might be a good way to kind of close things with all the time they've spent together. Joel and Dad, this is Foxy Gagnon. Thanks for watching. And on behalf of everybody at North Country Cable Network, you've been watching Fox on the Run. Good night, North Country.